All right, here we go on a Monday. I am solo. I tell you, if there's a good day to be solo, it's today because Andy is out on his vacation time, well-deserved anniversary, a belated anniversary time. But it happens to coincide after the Cowboys just uttered like it was awful. It was awful time against the Lions. And look, I think I've said it a lot. The Lions are really good. They were my number three team in the last couple of weeks. I think they're really good, but just this Cowboys thing is a disaster. So it's not surprising the results were the way they were. So I'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit here, but it is a Monday. I am solo this whole week, so you've got me. I'm trying to come up with the right topics and everything, but we're going to keep to the same schedule. I might get into a little couple different things, but we are going to keep going on the right way to go here. So I'm just going to jump into the three segments. I'm using a different platform since Andy's not here, so you won't see the 7-minute timer and the countdown. So I'm just going to start my clock on that, and we'll go from 7 minutes down and work through there. So the timer is going, and let's go ahead. I'm just going to read you the text exchange between Andy and I. This is great podcasting, by the way. I'm going to read you the text exchange between Andy and I, starting a little bit after kickoff here. From Andy, you watching? Me. I have to watch through the red zone. We are getting the Panthers game. We were getting the freaking Panthers game. They had the best game of the week on with the Lions. Well, it was supposed to be the game of the week, Lions and Cowboys, and we were watching the Panthers. The Panthers actually played better than the Cowboys did. So I said, we're getting the Panthers game. That's all you need, Andy, referring to the red zone. I said, yeah, I can't imagine I have to have more pain than watching it full time. And then Andy texts, that play was wild. I said, we stink. Feel free to send me something that I can say on the pod. I might later. Cowboys making Lions look amazing. Yeah, they do that often. Remember the Saints? They were 2-0, and they just rolled the Cowboys. It was embarrassing. The Saints haven't won a game since, by the way. Yeah, they're pretty good, and we suck. That's me. Yeah, that reads about right. So I give Andy then the middle finger emoji. I can say it, but you can't, ha. And then Andy gives me a little emoji back. We're just awful. Oof. Letting Detroit score on 5 straight drives, question mark from Andy. It's downright embarrassing for me. Pretty bad. Good thing I'm not on the pod with you tomorrow. And then this is me. Put up 50, please. Maybe that'll get people fired. Andy, this doesn't even look like Dallas. That's where he's wrong. It absolutely looked like Dallas. But yikes, not sure what happened to Hutch, but that's a huge loss. By the way, that is a huge loss for Hutchinson to be out. Probably the rest of the season with a broken leg. That looked awful. More of Andy. Dallas looks awful. Not even pro football. Yep, that sums it up. And then Andy posted on Threads. Aside from Hutch, I'm so happy with this Lions game, but seriously, Dallas is playing like absolute dog horse shit. Used emojis. Andy's good at emojis. It's embarrassing. Can Big Mike keep his job after this garbage? Can't score, can't stop a drive. This is humiliating. Cowboys fans, this is your coach Dunzo. And then he had to tag me. That's great. So I might record tonight. That was me. Anyways, this is an all-time low. I think Detroit's good. Obviously, they're good. The Cowboys are obviously bad. They can beat the worst teams, but and when they beat the worst teams, everyone's like, "Oh, the Cowboys, they can get this going." But then you have to play actually good teams. The Cowboys, I looked through the rest of their schedule. I don't know honestly if you can get 3 more wins out of the rest of their schedule. I mean, they're 3-3 now. 17 game season, so 11 more games left. I was counting up 3-8 might be realistic. The Commanders are like, you think Dallas can stop Jaden Daniels? Jaden Daniels like played a great game yesterday. And then I just don't imagine. I mean, maybe they can beat the Eagles or split with the Eagles. They play the Giants one more time. The Giants almost beat them the first time. The Cowboys should have probably lost to the Steelers last week. It was amazing that they won. It's really bad. I'm just gonna say it. So, okay, last time Andy was gone, I did a confidence pick on how I felt about some of these teams after so many weeks. I know we got a game tonight, but I think Buffalo is going to still be good. The Jets, I'm not so sure about, but I'm going to go through with the remaining time of the segment a confidence pick, and I'm just going to look at some of the top teams. I'll probably pick the top 10 or 12 teams and see. So Kansas City, they're 5-0. I feel strong about that. Minnesota Vikings, look, I think they're good. Are they 5-0 good? They could be 3-2 just as easy. I think they're good. I just don't know if they're undefeated good. Texans look really good. New England stinks. Detroit, you know where I stand about Detroit. The Falcons are 4-2. Remember how bad that first week was, and everyone was like, "Is Kirk Cousins? What's going on there?" The Falcons are 4-2. They haven't always looked pretty. I think they're a middle of the pack road. They could be a 6-7 or a 6 or 7 seed. I think at the end of the day, the Commanders, I think they played really well against the Ravens. The Ravens did take control of that game, and the Ravens did really control Jaden Daniels from running and doing a bunch of stuff, but he still made some amazing passes, converted a lot of big fourth downs. I think this Commanders team is real, and I think they could win the NFC East. Ravens, you know how I feel about the Ravens. I'm sticking with them. They're going to be my number 2 team on the NFL top 5 on Wednesday. The Steelers, look, 4-2. They could just as be easily as 2-4 or 1-5. Justin Fields gets worse and worse each week. We could see Russell Wilson in a couple weeks, I think. Tampa Bay 4-2. What? They keep putting up a ton of points. They should be 5-1. They could have had that Atlanta game last week. They really pissed that away. Green Bay, I like them at 4-2. The Bears 4-2. I think it's kind of a fake 4-2. Now they could be 6-3 at the end of this next stretch because they play some easy teams, and then they get into the meat of their schedule. Their last 8 games are just brutal. A lot of NFC North teams. And I think Caleb Williams is playing good for a rookie quarterback, but I think they're going to get exposed. They've just played a lot of really weak teams. Buffalo 3-2. They could be 3-3 after tonight, or 4-2. I think they're real. The NFC or AFC East is really awful, so I'm not really sold on that. The Chargers at 3-2, I'm not sold on them. I think they're really a weak team. They're fine. They'll beat up the bad teams, but when they play the good teams, they'll keep it close. I think Harbaugh has definitely made them a better team, but at the same time, 3-2 seems about right. The Eagles at 3-2 could have very easily be different. How they played the Browns close, that should get them fired. Even though they won the game, that should get them fired than themselves. So that's the top ones. I'm going to go with the bottom 4 here and just see here. Let's see. You got Cleveland Browns at 1-5. They are that bad. It's amazing they won one game, but they are that bad. And there's the timer, so I'm going to just go through these next couple. New England at 1-5. They are that bad. Drake May played fine. He's going to get killed every game because their line stinks. So that's going to be an interesting thing to see. They play the Jags this week, speaking of 1-5 teams, in London. I mean, what an awful game. Trevor Lawrence is awful. He's been awful this whole year. The Jags, if they lose to New England, Doug Peterson is not making the flight back with the team. Carolina is 1-5, and it is a bad 1-5. So we're going to just stick with that. I'll get into more NFL talk. I got some other topics for the NFL this week, so we'll hit some of those areas as well. Okay, I'm going on to my next topic here. I didn't really want to get into politics, but I'm going to, and it's mostly because I'm a little disgusted with the state of ads we've got in North Carolina. Look, North Carolina is in play for so much of this political season. Yeah, Kamala Harris has been in the state several times. We see a lot of things that are going on around the relief efforts. There's been a lot of messaging about the relief efforts in Western North Carolina and who's doing what. It does seem like the Republicans continue to want to double down on the Democrats punishing red counties and creating man-made hurricanes so that they can go and target those countries. It's amazing. Like, I thought that conspiracy theory was a joke. I thought, seriously, nobody really believes that. Go out on some of these boards, everyone, and just Google it, and you'll find, like, there's a lot of people who really honestly believe this. And it's what's amazing about it is if the Democrats can create hurricanes and target red counties, how come the Republicans can't create hurricanes and target blue counties? I found a funny one. It was wouldn't you want wouldn't you want the party that could actually create weather events? That would probably be a good voting thing to go with. But in any event, we see a lot of ads in North Carolina. There's a lot of stuff going on. All the Donald Trump ads in North Carolina are about how Kamala Harris, the borders is releasing criminals, terrorists, and murderers into the state. And then when they get into prison, they are, they happy to show Kamala Harris saying that she funds transgender operations for prisoners. So that's the big piece of it. It's either a small piece of one ad or it's the whole other ad where Kamala's at some transgender forum or transformation forum, and she's talking about how she's proud of giving money to support transgender care in prison. Now, we don't know the full context of that quote because we only see the snippets there. But those are effectively the Kamala Harris ads, the Trump ads against Kamala Harris. And nothing about what Donald Trump stands for, nothing about what he's going to do in office, nothing about any of those things. All only about I'm Donald J. Trump and I approve this message. And I just, again, I can't help but think about is what are you going to get with the Donald Trump presidency? What are you really going to see? You hear about this "Make America Great." Like where are we going to see some of these issues? Where are we going to see some of the things that really matter to the what does make America great? I mean, is it that we have the highest infant and maternal mortality? Ooh, that's a bad one. We have the highest infant and maternal mortality rates out of any other high-income country. That also spends the most on healthcare. That's a report that was released from the Commonwealth Fund earlier this year. We're the 12th in best education systems by U.S. News and World Report. We have the highest healthcare cost per capita. We spend at least 40% more on healthcare than any other country in the world, and we have the highest education costs of any developed country in the world. So, like, is that going back to making America great? Why don't we talk about some of those real issues instead of what's happening at the border? When you look at what's happening at the border and illegals coming over, that's not like putting up a wall or putting more more border patrol agents on the border. That doesn't solve the root issue. The root cause of a lot of this is our immigration system sucks. It takes way too long to process individuals. It takes way too long to work through our bureaucracy. And so what happens is people then want to come into this country illegal. We also have to address some of the root causes that are happening in some of those other countries. Why not provide aid and stability to those areas as opposed to forcing them to leave? Why not get involved in trying to influence those countries into better supporting their people? And so I think we have a lot of these ads that are more about fear. Andy and I keep talking about this. It's fear politics. You have this, your money's going to go to funding transgender operations by prisoners or this or that. And we're not really talking about the issues. We're not talking about what we're really going to do to make America a leader in the world. All you hear about is make America great and stop paying people in Ukraine. If we didn't use that money for Ukraine, you think it's going to go to Appalachia? It's not, people. You have to understand where some of this stuff works from and how they pull this money out. It just means more money on taxes on us. And I know the Trump campaign likes to say they're going to give you more money back. Yeah, he might try to some of these things today, but in the long run, his policies have been proven, shown effectively over time, that it costs the middle class and Americans more, even though you may get a short-term tax relief. Why? Because Trump thinks you're a sucker. That's why. Now, look, I'm not going to say the Harris campaign has been any better. I mean, but they at least promote a vision of moving forward. But they're short on details too. They have a lot of struggles and challenges right now. They're trying very aggressively to pull in the African American vote, and despite their history, and maybe that's some of the challenges. A lot of people are saying, "What have the Democrats ever done but use the African American community to get votes?" And you have Barack Obama out very hard on the campaign trail right now, talking and addressing African American males because they are voting for Donald Trump and not for Kamala Harris. And I think the community is very, they're seeing over the last 50 years, the Democratic Party has used that voting group as just hey, we're going to put them in our back pocket and they're going to always vote for us and not challenge us. And then they wonder, when people start slipping away, what have you really done for that community? And I think it's a very real and very concerned. So I rambled on for this segment, but I'm just sick of the attack ads. I'm sick of the ads in general. And I'm ready for something different. And I'm looking forward to seeing some of these. I just wish we would see and talk about the issues, because we have a lot of problems in this country: healthcare, education, a lot of areas, and we're really not addressing those areas. Okay, all right. So last segment here, working on the last segment. I'm going to talk about. I guess, a little pop culture-y type of things here. So it was Friday. This is how crazy things can be. Sometimes Friday night, our daughter had to spend the night somewhere, and our oldest daughter was doing her thing with her friends. So it was just my wife and I. We watched a little British baking show, which, by the way, if you haven't watched that show, it's great. It comes out every September on Netflix. Go back and watch some of the old seasons if you haven't caught up, because it's just a really good show, a feel-good show. People are actually, they're just baking stuff, and they're having a good, healthy competition. It's not about manipulating other people or creating teams and all this other stuff. You just bake your food, and the best one wins. So we watched that, watched the rest of Bad Monkey, which, again, another one of these shows that you don't have to think too much about. You just watch it. You kind of go like, you have those ooh moments, and you kind of pull for certain characters. So that was a good end of the show, wrap up of that. I really enjoyed that show. And then we watched, my wife was interested in watching one of these Hallmark Channel shows. It was about fall and Halloween and all this other stuff, and again, I was like, well, I got nothing else. So there was no other good games on or sporting events that I wanted to watch. So, or even movies for that matter. So I stuck it out, an hour and a half on the Hallmark Channel. It was true to script. Like, you see all the memes about the Hallmark Channel stuff that is going on, and how all these movies come out. It is amazing. It's like a factory of all these cheesy type of shows, and one person is a well-to-do from the big city, and they go to the small town where they reconnect with a high school person or a friend of theirs, and they can't believe how things have changed, and they're going to stay in the community. And I just wish somebody would make a movie about, like, the next month after. Like, what happens after they made that decision to stay there and invest and rebuild the community or work on that relationship? What's the day-to-day after that? That's what I'd kind of really wonder about. So Hallmark, you should make that movie. or somebody else, Netflix, make that movie. That'd be a really good thing to get to. All right, I'm going to switch then to a little box office type of thing. The Joker, the spiral of this movie is getting worse and worse. Joker part is two, for lack of it, I'm not going to Folie do was 7.1 million this week. It only again made less than 40 million last week. This is a $200 million film. So they're really struggling bad. But it came in third place this week behind The Wild Robot, which is supposed to be a really good kids movie. It's doing continue to do strong. I mean, that movie has made through a couple weeks already. It's been through 2 weeks. It's $150 million, 85 in domestically, and then 75 or 65 overseas. But that movie is doing really well. But the leader this week was Terrifier 3 at 18.3 million. Look, I think I've said this a bunch. I'm not a big horror movie fan. I didn't even know they made Terrifier 1 and Terrifier 2, yet alone was coming out was Terrifier 3. So very interesting stuff out of the box office this week. Good things happening there, I guess. You have this coming week, this coming weekend, you have Smile 2, which is another one of these horror movies. You have a couple other movies heading out, but I don't see much coming more. I know Andy's looking forward to Venom 3. I'm not so much looking forward to that, but that'll be a movie that comes out a little bit. But there was other news that I know Andy was really excited about, and we'll have to get his take when he comes back in. But Voltron, the great comic movie, or the great comic TV show, announced this week. There's a Voltron movie come out, and then Henry Cavill is going to be in this. Henry Cavill's been in a lot of great roles. He was in Mission Impossible. He was in, obviously, he played Superman, and then he was also the Witcher on Netflix, which he did a great job. I thought on that. I really enjoyed that. But Voltron came out, and now I'm interested to see, is this going to be a live action Voltron? Obviously, I would think it has to be, unless they're going to. It didn't say that Cavill was going to voice a character. I would think they'd want him to be live action. But it got me thinking, is like, what are other cartoons from growing up that would be great movies? We saw like live action movies. We saw Transformers come out. We saw G.I. Joe come out. So those were, Transformers did better than G.I. Joe, but I wouldn't say that they were box office smashes, especially the last the first couple Transformers were fine, but the last ones weren't that great. And then you have G.I. Joe did okay. I mean, I think they had a lot of star power, but they didn't really do that great in the box office. The movies weren't that good in the first place. But are there any other TV shows, cartoons that we had growing up? We had Scooby-Doo. They came out with the live action stuff. I was trying to think of it as Andy and I both like Thundercats. Could you see a live action Thundercats movie? There was a show that I used to like, is it Robotech? I could see that type of show doing pretty well live action. Though it would be hard because I don't think they had like consistent characters over time. So it would probably be a little bit more of a niche type of thing. But I think there's a lot of those, and there's my alarm for the last segment, but there's a lot of those that I think are out there. So I'd be interested to see if anybody had some other TV shows that they thought would be good to have growing up as a cartoon show. From like the 80s or early 90s. When I was thinking through it, we had so many of those Saturday morning cartoons. I just don't know if they translate to the movie side. So, all right, everyone, I went through 3 segments. I didn't go as long as, if we had Andy here to go through. Probably good because I'm still recovering from the look. As much as I want to say the Cowboys, like I hate the Cowboys this season. I'm not going to check in on them until January. Like when you lose 47-9, I mean, literally, 47-9 at home. You've been blown out. The Cowboys used to have this. They had this long home winning streak, and now they've lost the last 4 home games, including one playoff game, and they've been behind by more than 14 points at halftime in each of those 4 games. So, I mean, it really begs the question: is I know Mike McCarthy had 3 12-win seasons in a row. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. It's a downright embarrassment right now. And if you don't make changes, Jerry Jones, you have the bye week this week. If you don't make changes, I'm sorry, but you get what you get. And this is, Jerry Jones is 83 years old. We've been making fun of Biden and Trump for being that old to run the country. What makes you think you can run a professional sports team like he's doing? And he's probably pumping himself with some sort of he's probably going to the the chamber afterwards to get revitalized on things. But it's embarrassing. I mean, as a Cowboys fan, I have not had less interest in the season than I do right now. So I'm going to wrap things up here. I am going to take this over next on Wednesday. I'm going to talk about owners who, just because they may be successful in the bottom line, doesn't actually mean they're successful in reality, and how those or even owners who are successful in the bottom line in business, when they try to take over a sports team, they utterly fail. David Tepper in Carolina is a great example of this. But I'll talk about that on Wednesday. Got some other topics to cover on Wednesday. I'll do the top 5 as well. Andy won't be here. Maybe I'll see if he can hit me up with his top 5. But otherwise, you'll get my top 5 and maybe some other NFL notes as we go along. And maybe we'll talk a little MLB baseball playoffs. It's been actually a good postseason this year, so be interested to see. We've got the Dodgers and the Mets going on now, and then the Yankees and the Cleveland Guardians play starting tonight. So, all right, with that, everyone, I won't catch up with Andy next time. I'll catch up with him this weekend, but I'll catch up with the rest of you next time.